Warning, the following video contains some spoilers for Baldur's Gates 1 and 2. You have been warned. Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. If you're new to this channel, I primarily focus on paizo tabletop role-playing games like Pathfinder and Starfinder. And if you want to help me out, I have a Patreon and Discord, more info at the end of the video. So, Baldur's Gate 3. It's been out for a couple of years now and a lot of people love it. And rightly so. Larian Studios produced a fun, entertaining, and engaging game. Sure, it's not for everyone, but it sure seems to be for a lot of people. But did you know that there are prequels, Baldur's Gates 1 and 2? Seems kinda like a no-brainer, but a lot of people don't realize that this is Baldur's Gate 1. It came out in 1998 and was sprite-based, and these are still two of my favorite games of all time. They ran a modified version of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition rules, and they were just super fun. The story was completely different too. Over the course of two games is a story of several demigods all vying for control over their father's domain, their father being a dead god, of course. And just like Baldur's Gate 3, there were a vast array of interesting companion characters to help you on your journey. Before Astarion, we had Imoen, a relentlessly upbeat friend. Before the wizard Gale, we had Dynaheir, a witch on a pilgrimage to learn more about the outside world. And instead of Minthara, we had the best character of all video games fight me. So I thought I'd take a second today to try and recreate some of these great characters in Pathfinder 2e. Now, throughout Baldur's Gates 1 and 2 and their expansion packs, along with the midquel created by Beamdog years later, there are a ton of companion characters. So I'm just going to choose some of my favorites to go over today. Some of these choices are well known and some are going to be pretty niche. Also, I'm not doing full builds. Since I'm going through multiple characters, this is going to be done lightning round style. I'm just going to go over some of the backstory of the character, their ancestry, background, class, subclass, and then special consideration. Also, please note that Pathfinder 2e and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition are two completely different games, obviously, so I may have to change up a few things like classes. Just remember I'm trying to get as close as possible to the heart of the character, not recreate what it says on the D&D character sheet. Let's start off with one of my favorite characters, Khalid from Baldur's Gate 1. If you have played Baldur's Gate 3, Khalid used to be Jaheira's husband, but died and couldn't be resurrected at the start of Baldur's Gate 2. In Baldur's Gate 1, he's a half-elf fighter, and interestingly, he's kind of a coward, or at the very least, neurotic. But he fights on in spite of his fear, which I think makes him a really interesting character type that isn't explored very often. He's not some brave, noble knight immune to fear, but a loyal defender who fights on despite his fear. Pathfinder 2 Khalid is going to have to be a human with the Ayuvaran or half-elf versatile heritage. For his first level ancestry feat, I'd grab Elf Atavism for Cavern Elf, which is a complicated way of giving him dark vision. D&D Khalid had Infravision, which was that version of D&D's version of Dark Vision. This gets him Pathfinder Dark Vision, it all works out. For his background, I thought about going with Guard, as he is a militiaman, but that would give Khalid the Intimidation skill, and Khalid is not intimidating. So I'm going to go with Martial Disciple. This gives him the Athletics or Acrobatics skill, then the Warfare Lore skill, and either the Catfall or Quick Jump skill feats. All of those kind of work for Khalid. For his class, D&D Khalid is a fighter, so yeah, we could also do that for Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder fighters don't have a subclass, but you will probably want to go sword and shield style. That's how most people depict Khalid. And any final considerations? Well, for me personally, I always had Khalid as a fighter up front, so I could see building him as a guardian instead of a fighter if you wanted. So long as he's in heavy armor with a single sword and a shield, I think that does him justice. Next up, I want to bring up a lesser known character from Baldur's Gate 2, but one I loved playing with, Valygar. Valygar is also a great character concept. He comes from a long line of powerful wizards and magic is in his blood. It's important to note that sorcerers aren't really a thing in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition, though in some versions of Baldur's Gate 2 they are kind of retconned back in. Anyway, the important thing is all of Valygar's ancestors kind of go mad with arcane power, and so Valygar has decided to live the life of a hermit and to not have kids to make sure his bloodline can't terrorize the world anymore. Pathfinder Valygar is going to be a human, that's pretty simple. For his heritage, I'd grab Versatile Human to get the Toughness feat. For his ancestry feat, well, Valygar starts with a katana for some reason, so I'd grab unconventional weaponry just to get access to that katana. Remember, katanas are uncommon in base Pathfinder. For his background, Valygar's upbringing means he's fairly knowledgeable about magic, so I'd grab the background Spell Seeker. This gets him training in Arcana or Occultism, so Arcana for him, as well as the Library Lore skill and the Recognized Spells skill feat. As for class, D&D Valygar is a Ranger, and that fits him pretty well in Pathfinder. In particular, I would go Flurry Ranger with the Twin Takedown feat in order to dual wield like he does in Baldur's Gate 2. And lastly, for special considerations, Dungeons & Dragons Rangers got access to some Druid spells, so maybe grab Druid Dedication if you wanted to replicate that. Now before we talk about the next character, let's talk about Minsc real quick. Yes, Minsc from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, as well as Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I could stat him up here, but he's pretty simple. Human, Giant Instinct, Barbarian, or maybe just Fury Instinct. But those who have played Baldur's Gate 3 with Minsc will have noticed that he brings up a character named Dynaheir, and she's in Baldur's Gate 1 as well.
And Dynaheir, my witch.
The story of Dynaheir is that she is a spellcaster from up north. When you meet her, she's on a sort of pilgrimage to learn about the outside world before returning to her northern tribe, Wiser, and Minsc is her bodyguard. Unfortunately, she falls prey to the same fate as Khalid at the start of Baldur's Gate 2, but in Baldur's Gate 1 she is a good-aligned but somewhat arrogant spellcaster. But she's arrogant in kind of an endearing way. She's all ego and knows it, which is an excellent counterpoint to Minsc. For Pathfinder Dynaheir, she's pure human. Since she comes from the frozen north, I'd give her the Winter-touched heritage, giving her cold resist. And due to her haughty attitude, I'd give her the haughty obstinacy ancestry feat. For background, I'd simply grab Scout, as that gives her the skills she would need to survive in the north. This gets her the survival skill, a terrain lore skill such as Arctic lore or mountain lore, and the Forager skill feat. For her class, Dynaheir is a wizard, or mage as they were called in D&D 2nd edition, but she is constantly referred to as a witch. The people of her tribe refer to all female spellcasters as witches. That's where the title comes from. So yeah, for fun, let's make her a witch, particularly an inscribed one witch, so she is still an arcane spellcaster. For special considerations, I'd give her the object familiar rules laid out in Divine Mysteries so that her familiar could be a spellbook. There, best of both worlds. She's a witch and still has a spellbook of sorts. Okay, another time for a lesser-known Baldur's Gate character, but one that has an awesome backstory. Haer'Dalis is a bard you find in Baldur's Gate 2, and while he looks like an elf, he's actually a tiefling or part fiend who hops around to different planes and performs plays with his acting troupe. When you find him, he's hiding out in the world of Forgotten Realms because his acting troupe mocked a powerful extraplanar being, and now the whole troupe is laying low. Haer'Dalis is an actor/poetic warrior that basically can't stop poeting, and he's also a really great utility character. He has some magic spells, some ability to buff, and he's not too bad in combat. So for Pathfinder Haer'Dalis, we're going to make him an elf, but with the Nephilim or part fiend versatile heritage. Like Khalid, he has infravision, so I'll give him the ancestry feat Nephilim Eyes for dark vision. Now, there's not a perfect background for him, but I'm going to go with Concordant Scout, which gives him the diplomacy skill, Hobnobber skill feat, and a lore skill relating to one of the elemental planes. This gives him at least some planar knowledge. Now, D&D Haer'Dalis is a bard, but he has a kit, which is kind of like a D&D 2nd edition version of a class archetype. It changes what the base bard did. In particular, he is a blade bard, which lessens some of his bardic abilities, but makes him better at two-weapon fighting. That kinda sounds like a warrior muse bard to me. Just load him up with like dual short swords and you're good to go. And for special considerations, maybe go with the dual weapon warrior archetype to make him better at dual wielding. You could also try Ranger Dedication to get him the Twin Takedown feat, but that requires him to have a good wisdom score on top of everything else, so Let's do another more famous character from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Imoen. Imoen starts off the first game as a rogue, but by the second game she has multiclassed into rogue mage, and by the end of the second game, because of how multiclassing in D&D 2nd edition works, she is a powerful, full-on archmage with a tiny bit of rogue. Her backstory is that she grew up in Candlekeep, a giant library fortress, but she was more interested in sneaking around and getting into locked areas than studying. She's fun, bubbly, and optimistic, and kinda the heart of the party. She's great. Now, she does have a big secret that not even she knows about at the start of the game, and I won't spoil that, so let's get into stats. Imoen is obviously a human. For heritage, I'd grab Versatile Human for the extra general feat, and I'll want to grab Weapon Proficiency so she can become trained in all martial weapons. That way she's trained in rogue weapons like the short bow and the short sword. For her Ancestry feat, how about Cooperative Nature, which makes her better at helping others? Seems on brand for her. For background, I'll go with Academy Dropout, which, while not technically correct, represents her growing up with books but not being really into studying. This gets her the Arcana skill, Academia Lore skill, and Dubious Knowledge skill feat. Now, for her class, this might be a bit controversial, but I'm going to make her a wizard. Probably a unified magical school wizard, but pick your favorite. And then I will grab Rogue Dedication for special consideration. You could go the other way around, that is, Rogue into Wizard, but like I said, she eventually gets to be pretty much an Archmage at the end of the games. Maybe say that she started off as a rogue and then the GM let her retrain her class or something like that. Okay, one last character, and she is my favorite character in the entire Baldur's Gate franchise. Mazzy Fentan is a halfling paladin. Yeah, kinda, sorta. See, in Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition, certain classes had race restrictions. Elves couldn't be druids, dwarves couldn't be wizards, and halflings could be fighters, but not paladins. And the devs took this one weird game mechanic and really leaned into it. Mazzy is a devout halfling warrior completely dedicated to her goddess and defending the weak from bullies. She laments the fact that despite her desire to be a champion of the gods, she cannot be one. But she doesn't let that get her down and makes do with what she's got. Now, her god does skirt the rules by giving her a few divine abilities like lay on hands, but yeah, mechanically she's a fighter. The best explanation I have for why I love Mazzy is that it's the perfect blend of heartfelt and silly. On the one hand, you have the genuine emotion of a character that can't do their life's dream because they didn't win the birth lottery. On the other hand, there is the silliness of trying to explain an arbitrary and nonsensical rule to the internal logic of a game. I love it. Now, if I wanted to perfectly represent Mazzy here, I'd make her a halfling fighter with the Blessed One archetype and give her good dex and go into archery. But I gotta do right by my girl and finally give her the paladin treatment she deserves. Or at least the champion treatment, because that's the closest thing to a paladin in Pathfinder. Starting off, Mazzy is obviously a halfling. She is fearless in the face of danger, so gutsy halfling seems to be appropriate. And for Ancestry feat, we gotta go with the always great halfling luck. For background, it is stated explicitly that Mazzy's family are merchants, so merchant background works there. This nets her the Diplomacy skill, Mercantile Lore skill, and Bargain Hunter skill feat. For class, yeah, like I said, I'm going champion, though of course fighter would work if you wanted to be true to her depiction in the game. If you are going champion, in particular, I'd go with Justice champion, given how she's very justice focused. And for special considerations, well, there's not much to say. Yes, Game Mazzy is really good with a bow, but I always gave her a sword and shield and stuck her up front, bravely defending the party like the short queen she is. Anyway, that's all I had for today. If this video does well, say 2,000 views and 250 likes, I'll do a part 2 with even more fun characters from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, let me know. Maybe I'll even throw in a character from the Midquel Siege of Dragonspear, I'll see how I'm feeling. Hey, as a reminder, I have a Patreon. I'm going to try and post something fun there once a month, but honestly, it's just a way to keep this channel financially viable. Just a few bucks a month, and I'm toying with the idea of adding a limited higher tier where you can request a specific video. Let me know how you feel. Oh, I also have a Discord channel, link in the description below. And make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!